Carl Jung once said that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. But the same is true for modern men. We're carrying the psychological residue of generations who never dared to confront the dark truths about women. And here's what Jung understood with frightening clarity. You don't see women as they are. You see them as your soul demands them to be. What most men call love is often nothing more than projection. This isn't about hatred. It's not about blame. It's about waking up to the unconscious forces shaping your relationships, your heartbreaks, and your deepest addictions to the feminine. Because until you do, you will remain enslaved by women and think it's your choice. Jung believed that inside every man lives a hidden figure, the anima, his inner feminine, the seat of emotion, intuition, vulnerability, and soul. But here's the danger. If a man doesn't become conscious of his anima, she takes over. She gets projected onto real women, not as they are, but as your psyche needs them to be. You meet a beautiful woman, and suddenly, she feels like home. You've known her for 5 minutes, but it feels like she understands you. You call it destiny. Jung called it psychic possession. You're not falling in love with her. You're falling into your own unconscious. The anima whispers that she'll save you, complete you, heal you. But none of it is real. It's not her. It's you chasing your lost soul through the shape of someone else. The anima isn't evil, but she is powerful. She holds the key to your inner life. And if you ignore her, she'll drag you through chaos just to get your attention. Every romantic obsession that ends in madness, every pedestal you place a woman on, every irrational collapse into despair, that's not love. That's shadow, wearing her face. She doesn't knock. She enters. And if you're not conscious, your anima doesn't wait for permission. She takes the wheel. She becomes the voice behind your desires, the ghost in your chest, the heat that clouds your judgment. You think it's love, but it's hypnosis. You think you're choosing her, but really, you're just following a pattern you never questioned. A man who hasn't faced his inner feminine doesn't relate. He projects. He doesn't love. He seeks rescue. And the woman he clings to becomes less of a partner and more of a screen. Onto her, he paints every unmet need, every emotional hunger, every lost part of himself. It's not intimacy. It's possession wearing perfume. And this is where it gets dangerous. When a man believes she completes him, he surrenders everything to keep her close. His voice, his boundaries, his truth. Not because she asked for it, but because he never knew how to hold himself. He was trained to perform, to please, to earn love through submission, especially from the feminine. So when she validates him, he glows. When she pulls away, he breaks. His self-worth rises and crashes with her mood. She doesn't have to manipulate him. He does it for her, because he thinks her approval is survival. And the deeper he falls, the more invisible he becomes to himself. This isn't romance. It's dependency dressed as destiny. He calls it connection. But what it really is self-abandonment. And the tragedy is, the more he gives away to hold her interest, the less she feels any respect. Because no one admires what's willing to disappear just to be loved. Jung didn't call this evil. He called it unconsciousness. And for a man who refuses to look inward, it's not just likely, it's inevitable. He's so desperate to merge with something greater than himself that he vanishes the moment a woman shows a flicker of depth. But it's not her presence that consumes him. It's what she represents. She becomes the symbol, the doorway to meaning, the embodiment of everything he thinks he's missing. And that gives her power she didn't ask for. Once she realizes that, she doesn't need to say a word. Her silence torments him. Her approval embarrasses him. Her absence defines him. He's not in love. He's in bondage to the parts of himself he refuses to meet. Jung never romanticized women. He respected their force and warned men who didn't. The unconscious feminine has two faces: the muse who inspires and the siren who devours. One gives birth to soul. The other feeds on the lack of it. Jung believed women, like men, are ruled by the unconscious, especially by the animus, their inner masculine. And when a woman hasn't integrated her animus, it shows up differently. Not as chaos, but as control. She becomes hypercritical, domineering, emotionally manipulative, always needing to dominate, yet blaming others when everything falls apart. If you're a man ruled by your unintegrated anima, you'll feel strangely drawn to her, because she mirrors your deepest wound, the need to be loved by a feminine presence that once rejected you. You'll call it chemistry. You'll call it challenge, but it's not that. It's reenactment. You're trying to rewrite an old story with a new face, hoping this time the ending will change. The modern woman disconnected from her true feminine nature is not evil. She's on fire. She's been taught to worship dominance, independence, and control as replacements for intuition, receptivity, and emotional depth. Her animus isn't a wise guide. It's a tyrant that speaks in judgment and withdrawal. And when that fractured feminine meets a man possessed by his own disintegrated anima, the result isn't romance. It's explosion. They crash into each other like magnets. But this isn't love. It's trauma dressed as destiny. He sees her fire and calls it strength. She sees his softness and calls it safety. But beneath the surface, there's a war playing out. A collision of unconscious archetypes. Two incomplete souls grasping at each other, trying to feel whole without facing what's broken. The only way out is through. Until she integrates her animus, she will keep burning the men who try to save her. And until you integrate your anima, you will keep running toward women who tear apart the parts of you you never learned to protect. Your soul. Jung taught that what we love in others is often what we haven't yet owned in ourselves. That woman you can't stop thinking about. She's likely holding a part of you that you've never dared to reclaim. Her mystery is your lost direction. Her confidence is your repressed masculinity. Her beauty is your hidden hunger for wholeness. You don't love her. You love the version of yourself you feel when you're with her. That's why losing her feels like death. Because you weren't just in love with her. You were in love with a part of yourself she made visible. And when she leaves, that part feels stolen again. Modern romance has become an endless loop of mutual projection. Everyone wants someone to reflect their fantasy, not challenge their unconscious. That's why nothing lasts. You didn't meet a person, you met a symbol. And symbols don't text back. Projection feels like fate, but it's just fantasy dressed up by desperation. When you project your anima onto a woman, you inflate her into something divine, a goddess, a healer, a muse. But she's just human. And the moment her reality shatters your illusion, the entire structure collapses. And with it, so do you. Jung warned that projection is always unconscious. You don't choose it. It chooses you. It happens to you. And because it feels overwhelming, emotionally charged, even transcendent, you confuse it with spiritual connection. But it's not connection. It's compensation. You assign your dead and unlived parts to someone else and then call it fate. That's why you fall so hard for certain women. They don't carry magic. They reflect the magic you lost in yourself. And because you've never met that part within, it feels divine when you see it in them. If you want love, kill the projection. If you want a soul, reclaim your own. Because until you do, every romantic connection will just be another mirror, collapsing under the weight of your unknown jungle. This isn't coincidence, it's a pattern. You keep meeting different women with the same emotional blueprint. Cold, chaotic, self-absorbed. One moment present, the next distant. They hook you, then they vanish. They punish you when you draw a boundary. They disappear when you show strength. But they cry when you pull away. Jung would call this a repetitive complex, a cycle driven by unresolved psychic content, often rooted in your earliest experiences of the feminine. The absent mother, the wounded teacher, the first love who never saw you. You don't remember it consciously, but your unconscious does. That's why you're not drawn to healthy women. You overlook the calm for the storm. You crave emotional whiplash because your psyche was taught to call that love. And until you face this, you'll keep replaying the same trauma with a different face. This isn't an accident. It's an initiation you failed to complete. You were meant to confront the pattern and grow beyond it, not keep dating it in new clothes. The feminine you chase is often just your original wound, aged into lipstick. And no matter how many times you swear she's not like the others, your soul already knows the ending before you ever send the first text. Jung taught that the psyche repeats what it doesn't repair, so your romantic struggle isn't really about romance, it's your unconscious begging you to wake up. You're sleepwalking through your desires, mistaking familiar chaos for passion. And you'll keep attracting the same storm until you stop and ask, why am I drawn to what harms me? What part of me still believes this is love? What am I trying to recreate, and why? The shift happens when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to show me about myself? That's when the mirror cracks. That's when she stops being your reflection and starts being your teacher. An anima-possessed man is emotionally reactive, easily seduced, spiritually hollow. He's always chasing completion in the form of a woman. He doesn't lead. He pleads. He doesn't attract. He adapts. He isn't sovereign. He's suggestible. This man becomes a plaything for feminine chaos. He's addicted to romantic highs and devastated by emotional withdrawal. He calls it deep love. Jung called it archetypal possession. In modern terms, it's a simp with a mythic wound and zero self-awareness. No woman truly respects a man like that. She might use him, manipulate him, even keep him around, but she'll never surrender to him. Because how can she surrender to someone ruled by her own image? The anima-bound man isn't weak. He's claimed. A man with fire in his soul, but no direction to carry it. So he lets women define his worth. He lets validation shape his spine. He waits for the feminine to make him whole, never realizing the cross must be forged from within. This man lives in a state of spiritual dependency. He believes love will save him, that romance will restore him, that intimacy will finally silence the storm. But it never does, because he's not chasing a woman. He's chasing transcendence. Until he realizes that no woman can carry the weight of the soul he refuses to live, he will remain trapped in cycles of infatuation, collapse, and shame. Jung knew this pattern intimately. He saw that when a man misses his initiation, he searches for it in the feminine. But she cannot initiate him. She can only reflect whether he has done the work. As long as he hands his worth to her gaze, he will never become the man she could actually admire. He'll just be another shadow orbiting her flame, mistaking warmth for love. Here's a brutal truth most men can't swallow. Women don't desire you. They desire what you awaken in them. It's not personal. It's symbolic. To an unconscious woman, you're just as much projection as she is to you. A stand-in for her father, a servant for her ego, a threat to her control, or a mirror to her own shadow. Most modern women don't want a man. They want emotional relief, a validation machine, a quick hit of closeness to soothe their disconnection from their own feminine soul. And if you show up as a man who is centered, awake, grounded in real masculinity, they'll either be terrified by you or transformed by you, but never indifferent. That's the test. If she's indifferent to you, you are not sovereign enough to touch her unconscious. Feminine desire is wild, but it's not random. Like men, women are shaped by their unconscious. That means their attraction isn't rational, it's symbolic. They aren't drawn to status, they're drawn to meaning. And in a spiritually bankrupt culture, most men have nothing meaningful to offer. They offer performance, compliance, emotional labor. But a truly integrated man doesn't stimulate her nervous system. He commands her attention without trying, not through force, but through presence. A woman can feel it. When a man cannot be moved by her games, when her silence doesn't shake him, when her beauty doesn't seduce him into submission, that's when something ancient stirs in her. Respect. You don't earn desire by effort. You evoke it by embodying the part of her psyche she has never made peace with, the masculine she fears, but secretly longs for. This isn't about dominance, it's about depth. If your presence doesn't confront her anima, she'll never truly open to you. She'll test you, tease you, try to tame you. But if you stand still in the fire, if you touch the part of her soul that trembles in your presence, desire becomes something else. It becomes devotion. To integrate your anima, you must stop chasing women and start facing your own soul. You must become dangerous, not violent, not toxic, but psychologically sovereign. A man who knows who he is cannot be seduced by beauty. He sees through it. He doesn't collapse when affection is withdrawn. He doesn't beg for validation because he's whole. This kind of man doesn't need the feminine. He chooses it. And women feel that. When a man has integrated his anima, he becomes unsettling to the modern dating world. Why? Because he can empty himself. Because he cannot be lured by the surface. Because his love is not for sale. Most women have never met a man like this. A man who doesn't orbit their chaos. A man who sees them, not as saviors, not as prizes, but as symbols of his own inner work. This is the man who is no longer driven by wounds disguised as love. He doesn't react. He witnesses. He doesn't chase. He chooses. He doesn't perform. He embodies. To a woman still governed by her unconscious animus, this kind of man feels cold, intimidating, even cruel. Not because he harms her, but because he refuses to play the role she unconsciously scripted for him. He doesn't touch the savior. He doesn't step into the role of redeemer. He holds his center, and in doing so, he shatters her fantasy. This man becomes dangerous not because he wounds, but because he cannot be used. His value is non-negotiable. His attention is not free. His soul is not available as a currency in exchange for validation. That's what Jung meant by integration. The anima is no longer projected outward. She's reclaimed inward. And when a man becomes whole like this, his presence speaks louder than his words. He no longer seeks love to feel alive. He brings life into love. Once you reach this level of sovereignty, everything changes. You're no longer trying to impress women, you're awakening them. Jung never preached rejection of women. He taught the removal of projection, to see clearly, to reclaim the very qualities you assigned to them, and integrate those qualities into your own being. You see beauty in her? Cultivate beauty in your own life. You admire her mystery. Explore the mystery inside you. You crave her emotional depth? Develop emotional intimacy with your own soul. That is what Jung called individuation, becoming whole. And only when you become whole can you meet a woman as an equal, not as a savior, not a seductress, not a mother, not a muse, but as a human being. Only then can love become real. The path of reclaiming the anima isn't poetic. It's brutal, because it demands that you stop exercising your soul onto women and start sitting with the full weight of your own emotional hunger. Instead of needing a woman to bless you, you learn how to hold yourself. Instead of needing her gaze to feel worthy, you earn your own. That's the line between the unconscious man and the integrated one. The former needs her to feel whole. The latter realizes she was never the answer, only the mirror. Jung taught that the inner feminine must be made conscious, not idolized, not suppressed, not chased through lovers, fantasies, or obsessions, but pulled back into the psyche, fully seen and respected. Only then can a man move through the world without being pulled apart. Not because he lacks emotion, but because his emotions no longer own him. When you become that kind of man, you stop falling for potential. You stop mistaking wounding for love. You stop calling your projections her. You become so rooted in your own being that the only women you allow near are the ones who bring clarity, not chaos. Carl Jung didn't write dating advice. He wasn't trying to help you get the girl. He was trying to help you reclaim your soul. And his warning was this: if you don't make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Most men think they've been betrayed in love. They haven't. They've been unconscious. They mistook obsession for connection. They called chaos chemistry. They chased projections and blamed women for the wreckage. But here's the truth Jung understood. Women are not your problem. Your unconscious is. And until you face it, you will always be ruled by the feminine, but never truly loved by it. The world doesn't need more men who spot red flags. It needs men who recognize their own fire. What the world needs isn't more men pointing fingers at women. It needs men who know how to sit inside their own fire without running. Men who have stopped blaming the feminine for the storms within them and have begun doing the one thing no algorithm, no dating coach, no hack can ever teach: shadow work. You don't fix your life by fixing women. You fix your life by integrating the parts of yourself you've been projecting onto them for years. Your chaos, make peace with it. Your desire, explore it. Your heart, let it initiate you. Because Jung's message was never about avoiding women. It was about facing yourself so completely that no woman could ever steal your soul again. That's the dark truth. She was never the answer. She was always the reflection. And once you realize that, the mirror shatters. The grief begins. The work begins. And the boy inside you dies. Only then can the man rise. Not the man women fantasize about. Not the man culture rewards, but the man who walks through the world with clarity because he no longer seeks wholeness in her eyes. He found it in himself. This is Carl Jung's dark truth about women. They are not here to complete you. They are here to confront you, to reflect what you have yet to claim within. You don't become a man by seducing the feminine. You become a man by integrating it. Only then do you stop chasing. Only then do you see clearly. Only then can you love without losing yourself. So if you're tired of chaos, of confusion, of collapse, stop looking outward. Start looking inward, because the woman you're truly searching for is hidden inside the man you're still afraid to become. Comment below, I reclaimed my anima. Let it be your declaration. Let it be your beginning. If this video resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to Beyond the Shadow. Your support helps spread this unexpected philosophy to the ones who need it most. Thank you for watching.